And the next vocabulary word is toxicity. The quality, relative degree, or specific degree of being toxic or poisonous to determine the toxicity of arsenic. So this one's really easy to remember. Just remember toxicity is being toxic or poisonous. And the next one is UL 723, and it's a test method for surface burning characteristics of building materials. The next one is vertical exit, and it's a protected stair that will not emit smoke and fire, allows movement from floor to floor, such as a stairway or an elevator. So just remember a vertical exit, just remember it's either an elevator coming down or a stair. There's three types of fires. There's flashover, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 of fires or combustion. And for flashover, it's a flashover is one effect of combustion or simultaneous ignition. Fire in the walls and fire in the walls and floors of building grow heat and everything around them to their ignition temperature, causing all the walls, floors, and objects to catch fire at the same time. When this happens, the objects on fire give a radiant smoke that carries combustible gases. So in the video before, you saw this happening. You saw the flashover happen, and all the walls, floors, and objects caught on fire, and it moved into the corridors. Stage 1, only the ignited item is burning. So this is like little fires. It's like if an ember pops out of a fireplace onto a rug and it starts burning. You would take care of those little fires with fire extinguishers. The next one is stage 2, and it's an ignited item, and objects close in proximity catch on fire. So for this stage, it's one thing starts on fire and then several things start on fire. And with this one, normally it's like the sprinkler systems. If they're in that building, they start on fire, or the sprinkler systems, water comes out of them, and those just start working. Stage 3 is flames are carried out of the room into the corridor. So this is the worst stage of a fire. And then this little diagram is basically what was shown in the video. It starts out with a little fire, and then it moves on, catching other items on fire, and then moves into the corridors. The next one is combustion, and there's 3 different types of combustion. There's flaming combustion, spontaneous combustion, and flameless combustion. And flaming combustion, it's a process for this is starting by pyrolysis, which is when heat causes organic compounds to decompose, producing combustible materials. And the second one is spontaneous combustion, and this occurs when the textile is heated and is a temperature that, without involvement of a flaming ignite, it's like a fire extinguisher, so you need a fire extinguisher to take it out. And flameless combustion is when multiple types, it has multiple types, has 2 different types, and one of them is glowing, and it's when a small area of flame has to be put out, and the area continues to become consumed without the help of a flame. And the next one is smoldering. We talked a little bit about that one with vocabulary words, but it's suppressed combustion that is known to produce large volumes of smoke filled with deadly toxins. And there's 3 different byproducts. So there's 3 processes for combustion, and there's 3 byproducts. And the byproducts are molten polymer compounds, smoke, and toxic gases. And there's several different flammability tests in the paper that I wrote. There's it describes all of these and the processes and how to carry out all of these tests. And this is just a list of all of them. This is the Steiner tunnel test, and it's just a picture of it. There's a better picture in your actual paper. It just got blown up a little bit. But one thing to remember for this test, it tests interior finishes, and they found that after testing it a little bit, it's not to be used with carpet, because what they do for this test, they stick the finish at the top of the tunnel, and it's more detailed in the paper, but basically they stick it at the top. Well, carpet is never on like the roof or at the top of the ceiling, so it's not a correct way to test. The standard tunnel test isn't a correct way to test carpet because the heat rises and it's hotter than it normally would be. The pill test is the next test, and this test is used to stimulate the effects of stage 1 fire will have on a material by measuring the response it will have to a burning tablet. And it's since 1971, that is when they've started using this test, and the government has required this test to be tested on any of the carpeting materials, and if for any of the carpets to be sold, they have to go through this test, and if it fails the test, it will be banned from purchase. So it has to be, just remember that you have to test all the carpets or textiles with the pill test, and if it doesn't pass, then it cannot be purchased. So the next one is flooring radiant panel test, and for this test it started in 1966, and it was recommended for floor covering systems, and they're for floor covering systems for the following reasons. First, it measures radiant exposures. It is tested on a horizontal plane just like it is used, and it's a simple sample. The next thing is a critical radiant clause, and this is a minimum amount of radiant energy needed to sustain a flame. During this test, the flame is allowed to move along the carpet until there is no longer reinforced by the radiant energy force and self-extinguishes itself. Once this happens, the CRF for the test is put into 2 classes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2 classes. You can read more about them in the paper, but class 1 is just the CRF is less than 0.45, and class 2 is the CRF is not less than 0.22, and the higher number of watts per square centimeter is the more resistant the carpet is to the flame. And this is a cigarette ignition resistance test for furniture components. So this is just the test that they do it basically says it in the title, just to test the furniture for cigarettes. And now they have, some buildings now they have where there isn't smoking, so sometimes this isn't always the issue, but this test method is intended to estimate the performance of upholstered furniture under a cigarette, and this test method is not intended to measure the performance of the furniture under the conditions of open flame. It's just like to test just for cigarettes, just for what it says it is. And there's also more information on that in my paper.